Menai was a miner, born on February 20, 1913 in Wales, and died on July 2nd, 2006. Menai was the second of 8 brothers. He never had a very good relationship with his father. At the age of 14, he decided to stop studying and start working with his friends in a local mining well, so he only has primary studies.
Occupation accidents, often fatal, were frequent, and in one of them in the mine where Menai worked. He was buried, but survived.
In the 1920, his family was evicted from the house, but it was his father's depression and being very overwhelmed and fed up with mining that led him to make the decisions to move to London from one day to the next, and also the fact of waiting to increase his earnings.
His relatives tried to stop him but could not. When he was there, his money was stolen, and out of desperation, he enlisted in the British Army when he was just 18 years old.
Alun's priority was above all to participate in the anti-fascist demonstration that was being prepared in the East End of London to stop the march that Oswald Mosley intended to do with his black shirts.
After fighting against the Black Shirts in London, he was injured and thought of coming to Spain to join the brigade members who were fighting fascism in the Civil War.
The Civil War was a conflict in which the Republican side faces to the nationalist side, which sought to impose by force a totalitarian dictatorship with fascist ideals.
This side was made up of a group of soldiers led by Francisco Franco and had the aid of arms sent by Mussolini and Hitler from Germany and Italy.
For this reason, the possibility of volunteers from other countries coming to fight and help the Republican side to win the war in Spain began.
A few days later, he had an interview to go to work for the Metropolitan Police, a job that could solve his life economically. But a conversation with an activist friend and the one who had lived in the demonstration made him change his path. He went to do an interview, but at the Daily Workers office on King Street, where volunteers were recruited to go to Spain.
His family didn't want to understand him, and his brother had treated him irresponsibly, but he was determined.
His determination, however, wasn't enough, and as with many other volunteers, his first attempt to reach Spain was a failure.
He left on London in January 1937 as the leader of a group of 4 other men. They had given him money to pay for the ferry tickets to France, where they had to catch a train to Paris. Once there, Alon had to carry a copy of the Times under his arm and wait for a girl to approach him and grab his diary.
As expected, the girl was waiting for them on the station, and after taking them to a suburb of Paris, she interviewed them and gave them directions to Perpignan, where another contact would await them.
The clandestine journey was twice when they arrived in Perpignan, where they were arrested by French police.
This bad experience, however, didn't discourage him, and he tried again in March.
The expedition failed to reach its destination. After 2 attempts, the fishing boat with which they wanted to reach the north of Spain had returned to Bordeaux because they were detected by the Italian boats that were helping Franco. 10 days after the last attempt, Alon and his companions were taken to Marsella by train. There had been a change of plans. The situation in the Basque Country was increasingly uncertain, and they had a new destination, Barcelona.
He got on the ship Ciudad de Barcelona in order to reach Spain, but this one was torpedoed and sunk by an Italian submarine led by the fascist side.
He was saved and joined the auxiliary health units of Albacete International Brigades, attending to the wounded in various units.
He was in many battles, but his main destination was the Battle of the Ebro, which was where his medical services stood out and he risked his own life.
During the confrontation, he was shot in the foot. He was able to participate in the farewell of the international bridges that took place in Barcelona in 1938. And until 2005, he didn't return to Spain, and when he returned, he visited the years of the war.
Throughout his life, he received various tributes in Gales and United Kingdom, and wrote a book explaining his experience and his life from the Rwanda and the Ebro, and died a year after his visit, at 93 years old.